Hello friends, welcome to my week of workouts aimed at getting you started and motivated. I am genuinely very excited. I'm giving you everything you need to get started, exercises, repetition, tips on forms, and more.
Welcome to the gun show.
Hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have had some laughs and we've learned a few things. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you do, and I wouldn't really follow my posing tips, by the way.
Praying mantis.
Let's get started.
Superstar.
Day 1, back and core.
When I do my warm-up mobility routine, I feel like I might set a number, but I do them until I feel loose in that area instead of just going by the numbers. If I say I'm going to do 8, but 8 I still feel stiff, I'll go to 10. If I still feel stiff, I'll do 12. And I am stiff, so I'm never going to get to where I want to be, but at least to feel like I'm loosened up a little bit. Because I've been so undisciplined with my mobility, most people are in pain when they're at the gym when they're lifting heavy. I'm in more pain when I'm doing my mobility because I've been so bad at keeping up with it. And I used to be so good at yoga and just flexibility, range of motion. That's why if you don't use it, you lose it. So you have to use it. This is way more firm and large than what I would really like to be using. If you're gonna be doing like lat sweeps with a stick, you probably wanna have something a little more loose, especially if you have a history of like rotator cuff injury or shoulder injury, shoulder instability. But when you're doing a warm-up, you want your warm-up to be dynamic, not static. So during your warm-up, you're not gonna just be doing a hold, you wanna be doing movement to get the body ready for exercise.
When following a workout program, make sure you listen to your body and break sets and reps up so they're more appropriate for you. If it says hollow body hold for 1 minute and you can do 15 seconds, do more repetitions. Simply break it up. Moving into our actual workout, and exercise number 1 is bent over rows. I'm doing 4 sets of 12, picking a weight I know is sustainable for me, but is also going to help me achieve my goals and make progress, building strength, while incorporating progressive overload. Most sets you're going to want to go slow and controlled on the eccentric. I am moving pretty fast and explosive here, but many of my repetitions are going to have variety, or sometimes I'm moving explosive. I will often slow down the eccentric stage of the lift or incorporate pauses. Just modify so you're consistently making progress. If you've been training for a long time, slowing down the eccentric, slowing down your tempo, and increasing your time under tension is a great way to add progressive overload. If you've been training a long time and don't want to just keep increasing your reps or the amount of what you're lifting, some rows are more permissive of compensations and bouncy movements. But the more controlled you are, the more you're going to be targeting the muscle that you're intending to train while performing your workout.
I feel like this is one of those exercises where it's so easy. If you're not good at telling if your form is good or not, if you're doing like a deadlift or a hip hinging movement, when I'm doing this, I'm trying to gauge how much of the movement is coming from my hips, how much of it is coming from my spine. You need to find a place where you're comfortable to lock that position, and then the movement's coming from your shoulder as you pull your shoulders, drawing back, activating the muscles of your back. When you start to do it wrong, you're not necessarily going to injure yourself, but there's a big difference that you can easily feel doing this movement.
Different types of rows may be more or less lenient on how strict your form is. Ego lifting is a great way to lift more weights, but it's also easier to get injured and it's less muscle specific. If you want to target the muscle, move slow and controlled, focus on the form and technique. Tempo is a tool for beginners and advanced lifters.
I feel like I should show The movement coming from the wrong places, I'm gonna show you it coming from my legs and not my shoulder and back muscle. And I'm gonna show you it coming from hip hinging knee movement and back. So I'm not gonna show you the back long because it can really lead to a lot of problems. But you get into position and you're pulling, this is correct. But if I start to like use my legs, now I'm deadlifting, I'm not using my back to complete the movement. And then if I start to go like this, that's really bad and you can really injure your back. The movement needs to be, you stabilize your body and pull with your shoulders. You're using your upper back muscles, like your rhomboids, your rotator cuff. You're using these big muscles on the top of your back to then complete the movement. Not like this.
In some ways, that's a really terrible idea, but it's such an important thing to teach. Learning how to hip hinge and making sure you're not bouncing plyometrically and twerking through your actual spine. Learning that early on when you're learning how to lift is one of the most crucial components of learning good form when you're lifting. It's also important not only in rows, but in deadlifts. And if you're not super familiar with deadlifting form, I do encourage you to watch a lot of videos and also start incredibly lightweight. This was actually a bit of a warm-up for me, just really making sure that I'm able to bend over and target my rows where I want to target them. This session ended up being a more volume-heavy day than I originally intended. Some of that has to do with training at a commercial gym. I come in with a plan and often the things I want to do are not available. You have to adjust. And I ended up trying a few different rows that were not originally on my plan. You have to be flexible when training at a commercial gym, but still make sure you're at least getting in the minimum of what you have planned for that day. If you want to get in tricep work and shoulder work, doing lateral raises, I never intend to drop from my program. I might rearrange things on my schedule based on what I'm able to get done during a day or how my body is feeling. But when you have a plan, stick to it as best as you can. Just be prepared to be flexible. Novice gym goers should start with just a few exercises per day. Don't overdo it if you're new to the gym.
I'm fatigued in my back already, so I can't do it without flinging it.
Once I fatigue, I start to break my sets and reps up a lot more.
All right, I'm gonna let my back rest. I'm gonna do my core for a second.
It's a great opportunity to superset or simply adjust your plan.
If you can't even complete the range of motion and you have a plan, change your plan, because I got to where I couldn't really get full range. Some other benefit, in my opinion, of doing unilaterals: one, you're not gonna have muscle imbalances. You're gonna force yourself to do 10, 10, 10, 10, but also gives you an opportunity to rest between sets.
While it's perfectly okay to break from your initial plan, bear that in mind as you continue throughout your workout. My back is more fatigued because I did more rows than I originally anticipated. It's okay to modify and adjust, but keep this in mind when you start to fatigue if you want to pay attention to your shoulders, your delts, your triceps. If you fatigue by overdoing some exercises, it might put a dent in other parts of your training program. The core is an important part of my program, and it's also allowing my shoulders and back to rest while I'm focusing on another muscle group that is important to me in my training. It is a time-saving hack to diversify a little bit each day.
If you're ever shy in public, just bring someone that makes you laugh. It makes you very comfortable. It really helps a lot, especially if they have no camera shyness whatsoever. Bring someone you're very comfortable with and the world disappears. I'm not sure if this was recording a little bit ago when I was talking, so just in case. I know that I said that I haven't really been training upper body. My back is so insanely deconditioned, and I think especially because I'm older and I've made a lot of bad decisions, like I'm very prone to injury. So because of that, I don't want to get into the ego mindset and end up hurting myself. So moving forward in my workout, I'm going to be doing mostly machines just because my back is already feeling tired from not training it and then training it. So time for some equipment. We're going to cheat and use the carnival rides.
Diversifying each training day will help you have rest time when one muscle group fatigues. Using gym equipment and machines is a great way to train more specifically. Free weights tend to require more muscle groups and more energetic demand. Equipment helps to maintain and train targeted muscle groups, and it requires less stabilization, which is good for strength and hypertrophy, especially for people with growth-oriented or body recomposition goals. New lifters do not need as much volume as I demonstrate this day, but note that I'm using lightweight. I adjusted my plan based on what was available at the gym this day and to demonstrate a lot of options for you all. 8 working lifts is plenty for beginner and advanced lifters. On a core and back day, you can do 3 major lifts for your core and 3 for your back, while adding maybe 2 accessory lifts or any version of this 8 lift breakdown. I did accessory work for my triceps and shoulders, allowing adequate rest to prioritize my core and my back. My main back lifts were a variety of rows, face pulls, and lat pull downs. I completed sit-ups, dead bugs, and reverse hyperextensions for my core. Reverse hypers are great for your deeper stabilizers and your more superficial large posterior chain muscles. Get the most out of your priority movements: intention, mindset, progressive overload, time under tension, consistency. These are some of the absolute keys to success with any plan. You should have a plan and make sure that your personalized plan matches your personalized goals. If you don't know where to start, just start. A lot of wisdom is going to come along the way, but you have to start.
I'm 40 years old. But there are people that are like in their 60s that can do splits and backflips and all of that.
I have to pick out my beloved wife's workout outfit. Let's pick it out. All right, let's get it.
No.
I'm at you.
It's perfect. What are you talking about?
Day 2, chest and arms.
Welcome to the gun show. The secret's in the sauce, and I'm not sharing the sauce. That's all.
For our warm-up, we started with a 5-minute walk, and then we are going to do some arm circles, banded curls, banded push-downs, and scapular push-ups. You are getting to witness firsthand what happens when my husband and I disagree on something. At least we are laughing.
See, I think when you do resistance band stuff, you need to keep tension in the band, but this is a pretty heavy band and it's my warm-ups. It's like, otherwise there's no tension there, and then there's hella tension there. It's not a very good warm-up band. You want tension the whole time, but it goes from like negative tension to heavy for my warm-up, but that's not good. So I might just do 10 total instead of 20.
If you don't like a traditional warm-up style, like so many people do not, you can also go right into your working exercises, but do a warm-up set or 2 of your actual working exercise. If you don't like traditional warm-ups, you don't have to do them, but you should warm up. Starting with exercise number 1, we're doing incline curls, and I'm going to superset these push downs, working my triceps. This way I am working biceps and triceps. If you do not do a warm-up, you can do a warm-up set or 2. I know I mentioned this previously, but doing one at a time or unilateral work in general is a great way to prevent muscle imbalances and minimize fatigue to permit each muscle group to have adequate rest before the working set.
Welcome to the gun show, baby.
Not all equipment is created equally. There are gyms that have much better lifting equipment than others, but it's good to try your gym's equipment to know which machines you prefer for each muscle group. I didn't personally love the tricep equipment I was trying, but I loved the preacher curl machine, and it's going to become a staple in my training program. I love being able to target my bicep And the stretch I was getting in the end range of this lift, because I was doing a ladder going up and down in weight, it made it really easy to adjust the weight and still target the muscle.
We don't come to play. Oh yeah.
From that exercise, I went onto bench press, starting with a very light weight. We're doing a pretty traditional approach here of 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps, working to some degree of failure. Building a massive chest is not a priority of mine, but I do want to be balanced and have strength in my upper body. Knowing your physical and aesthetic goals will really help to put together your perfect training program. Knowing your physical and aesthetic goals will really help to put together your perfect training plan.
7 bottom half, 7 top half, 7 full range. Or are people looking at me like that? Do I look dumb?
I underestimated my bicep strength. I do not train biceps very often. I actually should have gone up in weight on these working sets. If you start to do a lift and realize you do not have enough weight, then you can always pick up more weight or do a few more sets. If you want to build strength, you want to work to some degree of muscle failure.
So I'm doing 7s, but I'm doing, because it's hard to do this, just this, like that. So I'm doing half partial 7s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need to have more control. Partials, but this movement is mainly bicep because bicep muscle flexes and supinates the arm. This is actually working more brachioradialis, which is a bigger muscle than the bicep. So I did bottom and now I'm doing full range. I just don't know what to think about doing just top. Rep. Rep. CT.
Wherever you are in your lifting journey, if you are not seeing results or making progress to your goals, be attentive to, are you working in a way that's challenging to yourself? Are you working to some degree of fatigue? Are you incorporating progressive overload and making your exercises a little more difficult as you show up day after day, rep after rep at the gym? Your sets should be slightly difficult. You should be working most of the time in a pretty full range of motion, making sure that your lifts and your plan matches your specific goals and that you're being intentional. Music and having company is great, but if you have someone to talk to and you're listening to music and not paying attention to your body, you might not be attentive to things that you're missing and really not getting the most out of the movements. You're not maximizing time under tension or tempo.
Have you seen my diamond,
This is something
buddy?
that as a beginner lifter, I get wrong all the time.
Diamond.
I stop paying attention to my body and I'm not getting the most out of my lift. This is something that people that aren't seeing progress with their goals should be mindful
Watch those
of.
scoops, baby.
If you bring a buddy to the gym, be honest with yourself. Are they helping you or are they slowing your progress down, keeping you from being attentive to what you're doing?
They call me the rainmaker.
Why is that?
Making it rain, baby. Wow.
Having fun at the gym is important in being consistent, as long as whatever you're doing to make it fun isn't compromising your actual success and your priorities. You end up having to spend more time, do more reps, do more working sets, and it takes you longer to achieve the goals you've set if you're not taking the time seriously. The more focused you are and intentional you are in your working sets, the better. Many people these days are talking about getting the full stretch, making sure you are pausing at the beginning and the end of range, getting the most out of your time under tension and not being sloppy with your repetitions by rushing through the movement. A benefit of filming yourself or having someone filming you is being able to watch your technique. It's one thing to see it in a mirror, it's another to be outside of the gym, focusing on how you're performing and watching where your weaknesses are. I was going too fast. I wasn't going through a full range of motion. Many people do not realize how bad their form is, even when someone else is telling them. Tactile feedback, visual feedback, looking at film, these are all great resources to get the most out of your workouts.
You never want to do your static stretches before your workout. You can do static stretches after, but predominantly, like if I'm doing a bicep or a tricep static hold, that should be at the end, unless I'm making it dynamic by adding movement. If you're doing a static workout, what would you be working out statically, a nap? But if you're working out with dynamic movements, you should be warming up with dynamic movements. But you can cool down with static if you're not going to be doing activity after your workout. If you're doing activity after your workout, keep your cool down dynamic also. The prayer stretch, oh yeah, baby. So good.
Your fitness and health journey should be personalized to you. It should be fun and never ending. Always learning more about how to build the best version of your body.
Big, how do you do that? Does it look big?
2025 Miss Olympia of the Blind.
Superstar. You know, your phone looks like an owl. Anyways, I'm supposed to be talking to you guys. If you didn't know that I have ADD, now you know. What do you guys want to see in my next week of workouts? Because I'm switching up. This is not my normal week of workouts. I'm trying all new stuff. So if you're new to this, I'm new to this, we got a team now. Dream team, baby. Dream team. Am I rolling? I am genuinely very, very excited. For what it's worth, I am not very self-confident in terms of filming myself working out, but I have an idea and I think it's genius. And I'm going to bring you all along. I'm going to share this program with you, but I'm actually taking Jeff Nippard's tier list. He's developed these tier lists that are predominantly focused on hypertrophy, but he's ranking the best of the best exercises for each muscle group. Today, we are going to be doing my favorite muscle group to work, which is the glutes. I like training hamstrings, glutes, calves, lower body. Obviously, I need to improve my work on my core, my back, and he's got great programs on that. So today's exercise program is based on Jeff Nippard's recent glute tier list. Dr. Brett Contreras, the glute guy, has done a feedback on Jeff Nippard's video, which I did watch. It is jam-packed with information, very, very good and useful video. Watching both of them is hugely beneficial. Dr. Contreras goes really fast talking about his pros and cons in terms of Jeff's list. And I'd like to try to incorporate one of his movements today, but we are a bit on a time crunch. We're gonna try to do this workout in roughly an hour. I'm stoked, and let's get started.
I developed this program using his lowest scoring lifts or exercises as the warm-up and the cool down. These are the lower scoring exercises on Jeff's tier list, but they're still beneficial lifts.
That's a bridge. A thrust is when you do it with your upper body elevated, so roughly your shoulder blades are on the mat. This is actually a hip thrust, but we're just doing body weight, warm up, pushing through my heels.
If you don't want to do warm-ups this way, again, you can just do lightweight versions of your heavier working sets. But this specific workout is designed to incorporate all of the lifts on Jeff's tier Best of Booty program so that I could do them in my home gym.
Even though I'm warming up, I'm still being cognizant of my movement, watching how my knees are tracking, making sure they're not all loosey-goosey.
Doing a reverse lunge is typically more beneficial if you can do so with a deficit. Incorporating full range of motion is proven to be more beneficial for strength and for hypertrophy.
When we're targeting our glutes during a lunge, the further the step back you take, the better. A little bit of a forward hinge. We're trying to stretch that glute out in the leading leg. We drop down into the lunge. So we're really activating this right glute right now, stretching a deep, deep stretch. far back front leg. If this is up on a step, your front leading leg, even more of a stretch than coming back together. So if you're activating and working on your glutes, you're gonna stick that back leg far back, really sink down into the movement, stretching the leading leg's glute out to really target the glute. If you can elevate on a step, that's even better. When you do a reverse lunge, both legs are getting work. The leading leg is getting worked more than the posterior leg. The further step you take back, the more you're gonna work this front loading leg, stretching this glute, dropping down, which is why if this front foot is elevated, you're gonna get an even deeper stretch on that loading leg glute. Back leg is not taking as much weight if you really wanna target your glutes more.
To maximize your warm-up lifts, really focus on glute activation and mind-to-muscle connection.
If you pause at the top, it'll really help you if you have bad mind-to-muscle connection. Try to really squeeze that glute at the top. Pausing at the top will help you get more out of it. The reason why these scored low on Jeff's list is because you can't really load them. You're not getting much of a stretch. So you can't really stretch the muscle, you can't really load the muscle, you can't really progress the movement. You can use a band, but it's still hard to scale to track to progress, which is why these are low on his scoring list for glute hypertrophy.
When an influencer scores an exercise low, even the best influencer, it doesn't mean that that is a bad exercise, and it doesn't mean it doesn't fit in your program. Try to understand why they scored the exercise low before deciding if it's low for you.
So you're going to externally rotate at the hips, placing your feet together. So you really can't overload this exercise. And some people love them, some people hate them. But you're externally rotating the hip, which is a predominant movement of the glutes, so that's great. You're gonna just elevate, kind of forces you to use the glutes. Okay, so I got my heels roughly shoulder width apart, knees straight. I've got the bench on my shoulder blades, dropping down, push up, not hyperextending, just to neutral, and then back down. Another option, if you don't want to set up 2 barbells and you want to superset.
There are so many things that I love about fitness, and one of them is how easy it is to modify and adjust any program to fit your personal injuries, your lifestyle, what equipment you have. You don't need as much equipment as many people would lead you to believe to have a really good training program. It's beneficial to have a host of options and even to have a great gym, but don't let not having those resources keep you from starting to exercise. If you don't have a squat bar, you can still do body weight squats or squats with dumbbells, kettlebells. You can do single leg options. And there are a host of exercises that there's a calisthenics or body weight version of it where you can still get a lot out of the movement. Deadlifts are one of the exercises that are great with heavy weights, but not having heavy weights doesn't mean that deadlifts don't belong in your routine. You can do single leg body weight deadlifts. You can do dumbbell deadlifts. All exercises should be somewhat scalable and modifiable, even if it means breaking it down to a piece of that movement before adding weight, before adding range of motion, before making it more unstable or heavier or increasing your repetitions or your frequency. Being able to scale and modify exercises is part of what comes with practice, but even beginners should know how to modify movements so that they can start where they are and not be prevented from starting somewhere. Split squats are a historically difficult movement, and so are step-ups, but you don't have to have the elevation. Do split squats just from the ground. Do them without any additional weight. When you do your step-ups, start from a low step. Even these are scalable.
So ultimately, you just don't want to be using this foot much. Even if you just want to come like on your tippy toes. Oh, those feel good. 1, 2. I feel like when you dip, the toe isn't as important because like I'm kind of forcing this leg to be the push point.
On this training day, I am trying to make every single movement more glute dominant. You do this by putting more of a stretch on the glute while working and adjusting your body alignment so that you feel it in your glute more. You can touch your glute and try to feel the activation taking place, modify the resistance and the angle that you're working at, not hyperextending in your back.
Oh, that's way too light. Way too light. 6. I like how Natasha O'Shawn used to do this one. It was like, let me see.
Here I am doing kettlebell swings. This is not an advanced technique, this is ADD. And I am moving on to curtsy lunges. And curtsy lunges also scored low on Jeff's tier list. Dr. Brett Contreras mentions an alternative to this lift that I have not yet perfected. These are kickbacks, and a lot of these movements you're going to have to play around with to perfect them. If it's a higher level or more complicated maneuver that you don't feel safe trying on your own, ask someone that you know in your family or a friend that knows lifting and is a little more advanced. Have them watch your technique and make sure you're safe to be doing it. Get smart, don't get injured. Day 4, legs and glutes. When designing your workout split, you might not want to do legs in back-to-back days. Many people will design a bro split where they train push-pull legs, push-pull. Women tend to not fatigue as quickly as men do and can often handle more volume than men can. Your rest day will depend on when you feel like it fits in your schedule and also when it helps you maximize your goals. You might want to put your rest day in the middle of the week if you can afford to do so with your schedule. Other factors to consider when developing your personal program is your history of stress, your HRV, performance enhancing substances. It is important to consider your aesthetic and physical goals. Do you want to be huge, powerful, and strong, or do you want to be lean with great endurance?
Your hip abduction warm-ups can be done with a band, with a weight. You can hold a weight in your hand and still just make sure you're not using your arm to move the weight. You need to be using your leg to move the weight. This is just a warm-up though, so loading is not necessary at this point.
On average, women care more about growing their lower body, and often men are more upper body focused. This is noteworthy when following an influencer's program. If their aesthetic and physical goals are not the same as yours, then why are you following their exact program? Follow along workouts and what I eat in a days. They share this in common. You are not that person. You don't have the same metabolism, genetics, goals, or lifestyle. If you are new to fitness, start somewhere and gradually accrue information as you go. With any goal, you can't become a pro day 1 or even week 1. It's like learning how to make a PBJ versus learning how to make Hell's Kitchen gourmet flan or something. You have to start somewhere.
The mat is so unstable.
Spend time and attention on the muscles you care the most to develop. Usually, building muscle comes with more weight and slightly less reps. Growth and hypertrophy tend to require less reps but more weight. Endurance of all sorts requires high volume. Endurance runners don't train by taking 10 steps. They have to go long and far. They're usually more thin or lean and rarely focus on lifting heavy weight. High speed trains cardiovascular health and plyometric or explosive performance. Bodybuilders that want to build muscle work in a rep range of 7 to 12, maybe as high as 15. Higher reps for areas they want lean, and higher weight, lower reps to build strength and size. When powerlifters train, they want to be strong and sometimes will do sets of 1 near maximum to failure. For lean and toned tissues, you tend to want to do more reps. Progressive overload is a requirement in all categories, regardless of if you want to be lean with great endurance or huge and powerful. You still have to work hard and put in the effort. All groups are training to some extent of failure, no matter what the goal is. Even if you are very specific in one goal or having a huge booty or bolder shoulders, I discourage not having variety in your training. One, it will get boring. I love training legs and glutes, but I also don't neglect my upper body or my core. I want to be fit and healthy, head to toe, and having health-related goals has brought me the most aesthetic happiness. When I just had aesthetic goals, I did not enjoy training as much as the times I trained for community, for team, to enjoy my life or to take better care of myself. This seems most common, but some people prefer aesthetic goals. Just be honest with yourself if you want to stay consistent. If you want to enjoy training and not dread the process, it helps to know your why, even if the why is shallow. Long-term results come from consistency and having goals that really matter.
Sloppy rows. And everybody knows. Oh yeah, that's nice, actually. Hurts like a mother trucker. Whoa. Yeah, I like that. Let's just kill ourselves with that freaking calf raises. Wah. When I was teaching myself to lift heavy with my calves, when I was in college, I wore heels like all the time. And I would walk and carry my backpack, and I could sit up from the floor with my heels on. You're basically doing a calf raise if you're walking around like that. So I know how much I weigh. If I can do my body weight, and I know I can lift a heavy backpack or a heavy duffel bag, I'm like, a lot of it's mental. I don't know what he's about doing, but he's about to get popped in the lips.
What's your body weight?
299. Just enough to get on the public scale, buddy. If I go to Publix and I think I'm over 299, just make sure I wear stretchy pants.
You can get a huge bum with surgery, and you can get a huge bum by sitting on it. I prefer getting results that I have earned. I want to build not only my muscles, but my character. By falling in love with the process, having long-term success is far more achievable and enjoyable. If you want strong legs, train them, but don't neglect the rest of your body, or you might get bored and give up, overtrain and give up, stop caring and give up. Set yourself up for long-term success and you will get long-term results. Don't forget that this physical journey and health journey is a marathon and not a sprint. If you set unattainable goals, you might decide to quit. And if you push yourself too hard, the damages can be far-reaching and hard to overcome. Having a good plan is a great way to stay consistent, to enjoy the process, and to continue to grow as an athlete and as a person. If you are new to fitness or very unwell, your goal can be to just get started.
I care more about my form than lifting heavy. And I feel like if I focus on mind to muscle connection and really making sure I'm driving through my hips and heels and posterior chain, hinging, trying to push my butt to the back corner of the room, I'd rather do that than add a couple pounds.
As someone that has been training for a long time, I still feel like a beginner many days. I still feel insecure and know that my form could improve. My technique is not always the best, and I could do a lot better job with my schedule, my planning, and my goals. But instead of beating myself up, I try to do a little bit better every single day and consider each day, day one. Make this set count, make this rep count, and learn from the mistakes I've had in the past where I've done ego lifting or had no goals whatsoever, where I wasn't fueling my body or resting the way that I needed to. I've learned a little bit at a time along the way. One through physical therapy school, but also a lot from experience and being humble. I'm okay not knowing the most and having a lot to learn. In case you're curious about this very strange clip, my husband is making fun of my ratchet fingernails. Now you know.
That was not my hand.
With experience, you will learn which exercises work best for you and your goals. I love hip thrusts, but not everyone does. Research-based learning is very big in the physical therapy industry. It's also growing to be more appreciated in the lifting space and in exercise science. Many people prefer the seated hamstring curl, but again, not all machines are created equal. And you can be on a great machine and still have terrible form and not get the most out of the movement. Whether you are doing a seated hamstring curl, a supine hamstring curl, or even walking lunges, knowing how to get the most out of the movement for your goals is important. Are you maximizing the stretch? Are you working through a full range of motion? Could you go heavier while still having proper form and good technique? It's great to use research and literature to develop a fantastic training program, but it's all for naught if you're going to be cheating anyway, rushing through the movements and not getting the most out of your time. This is your time, so once you develop a fitness journey, get the most of it, enjoy the process, and make it fun for you. I'm telling you, you will really enjoy it much more, and your results will be so much more enjoyed if you find a program that, yes, works, but also works for you. Lunges are top tier for leg and booty gains, but only if you can do so safely. A longer stride will do better hitting your posterior chain, and a shorter stride length will do better hitting those quads. If you want to lean forward a little bit, even better for the booty.
Long stance, a little bit of forward lean, stretch that glute. Short step length, upright, quad, short, quad, big, and even a bit of a angle, front load, stretch that glute, quad, quad.
Leg presses are traditionally loved in the fitness space, and yes, I do enjoy them as well. But the other leg press at my gym was taken, so I'm using this machine leg press. I could not get the machine to work for my mechanics. I felt like I wasn't getting deep into the leg press, and I was just feeling it in my back. Play around with the movement, and if the machine doesn't work for you, it's okay. I actually ended up preferring one leg, but took a while to get there.
I'm not feeling this right. I feel it in my hip flexors. I'm pushing in my toes. Better. I mean, I'm sitting here with a weight. Look how close I am to the... So in our body, there are levers. There are 3 types of levers. Most of the levers in our body are like the bicep, but this is the resistance. And the force is supposed to be coming from here. So even when I preload the muscle in stretched position, and I just adjusted things, but that's not good, which is fine. But I feel like as I go to push, because the force is coming from here, I'm having to start by pushing through my ankles and my toes, which you actually want to be pushing through your heels. So even if I bring my feet up and my heels out, that's going to help a lot, but there's still, it seems like from here, it's just a bit tougher. That's better. I'm really having to kind of work to find the right soft sweet spot.
For a lot of lifts, there is a sweet spot where you feel comfortable, the muscle is getting targeted just right. You can either feel or even see the contraction taking place right where and how you want it. It might take time to find that from one machine to a next, even for machines that look very much the same. Learning how to try different things will help you target different muscles, but you need to do so in a way that's safe. There's also a sweet spot with the amount of weight you're lifting. I can leg press a ton of weight, but as you see here, I'm not lifting heavy on this leg press machine because I want to do it correctly. Moving on now to day 5. This is going to be a total body day where I'm just fine-tuning the places on my body where I feel like have energy to dish out a little bit more. And because a lot of my body is fatigued from a week of hard work, I'm just giving a little bit of love to every area, not overlifting anything that's fatigued, but still training my body in a way that everything gets a little extra love and I can just fine tune the body parts that have more energy or that simply need more attention. In most cases, if I reference a fitness influencer, it's going to be because I actually really like and respect their content. One of the things that Dr. Mike Israetel says that I totally agree with, if you're lifting heavy and pushing yourself hard towards difficult goals, you want your heavier and harder sessions earlier in the week. That way, it's a lot easier to push yourself once you have energy and more in the tank. It's also just easier to scale back than to scale up throughout the week. When I put my total body lighter session at the end, it's okay if I'm more fatigued because I've already given it my all. It's really difficult to kind of hold back through the week if you're putting your heavier and harder sessions towards the end of the week. It's the exact same thing when it comes to the actual session by session training. If you're doing hard sessions, you want your more difficult lifts, compound movements, and the muscles you care most to target at the beginning of your session. After your warm-up, do the lifts that are most important to you. And if you still have a ton in the tank at the end of the week, it's okay to still push yourself as long as you're providing yourself adequate nutrition and adequate rest. Because legs and glutes are important to me, even though this is a total body day, I am hitting those things first, early in the session, while I have the most energy, while I have the most strength, while I have the most in the tank. Putting my favorite, heaviest, and hardest lifts at the beginning of my session directly after my warm-up, unless, because I go to a commercial gym, something isn't available. You have to be adaptable if you want to have long-term success and a program that fits for you, because you can go to the gym and have nothing available. It doesn't mean that's time for you to leave. Get on what you can. Sometimes those days end up being your best ever sessions, even when the cards are stacked completely against you. Don't let that mean that you need to walk out. Just continue to push forward and continue to show up. Do your best with what you have available and what you can do, and you might surprise yourself. It might end up being the best session you've ever had. If you speak to an advanced lifter or someone that's been training a long time, many of us have examples of this where we thought, oh, it was going to be a terrible day. Oh, I've got nothing left in the tank. Show up anyway and you'll surprise yourself.
Probably drop sooner than I am, but I'm trying to really stretch my hamstrings. So I'm forcing myself to do a strict leg, even though I don't have the range. Usually isn't recommended, but I'm being mindful of it.
It should come as no surprise to you at this point that I love hip thrust. But if you want to get the most out of hip thrust, you do need to make sure that you have a setup that permits you to work through a good range of motion where you are not hyperextending in your back, but you're still coming into full extension in your glutes. You also want to be able to drop the weight all the way down if possible. If I had a perfect world, the bench that I work on at my gym would be a little bit lower, and I would also be able to bring the weight a little bit further down to the ground, but it doesn't permit that, so I work with what I can. On my total body days, if I have enough in the tank, I want to do the big 3, but now for me, I kind of have a big 4 because hip thrusts are in that, but in general, the big 3 includes a squat, a deadlift, a bench press.
So we have tricep and bicep next. I don't know if I can do 10 in a row of bench because we've done bench already this week, so we're just gonna give it a shot and we'll do drop set if we have to. And my butt came off. That was wonderful and very fun. Fantastic.
If you decide to do the big 4 on your total body days and you are gassed, just go lighter. You don't have to do the big 4. You can just add more of these accessory lifts or lighter lifts. And I'm just going to fine tune at the end of this session the muscle groups that I think need a little more attention. My shoulders, my back, the parts of my body that I have kind of neglected, or even if you haven't neglected, just where you want to draw more attention, build more strength. This is also a great opportunity to add in lifts that you missed earlier in the week because of your schedule or whether you were too fatigued. Anything that you didn't do well earlier in the week, fit that in now at the end of your total body day.
So Mike Israetel and Jeff Nippard were doing workouts together and talking about the best shoulder builders, and Mike Israetel was showing Jeff about going up further range of motion, more than 90 degrees. And Jeff was asking Dr. Mike why it matters what angle your hand is at. When you externally rotate your humerus, it clears the greater trochanter from pinching under your shoulder. So you're actually just making room by, when you externally rotate, that greater trochanter is going to get out of the way, give you more space to clear. Part of why this is such a good movement to build your deltoid is because the initiator of this movement is not the deltoid, it's your subscapularis. So the first few degrees of movement is your subscapularis, not your deltoid. That's why you can't lift that exercise very heavy, because the subscapularis is a very small muscle. So when you first start that movement, it's not your deltoid initiating the movement, it's your rotator cuff. That's why when you go up higher, once you get into higher ranges of motion, now it's the deltoid doing the work. That's why that's the shoulder builder. The deltoid's a big muscle of the shoulder. Once you clear the first few angles of movement, now you're going to be way more working your deltoid. If you externally rotate your arm, you're going to move that greater trochanter out of the way to give you the movement. It's a lot harder to do if you don't externally rotate your humerus. So I'm not a science-based lifter, but I still like to know the parts of science that are beneficial throughout the rest. Application is always more important than science, like what works best for your body. And I already mentioned the stretch. So when you're doing a bicep curl, your bicep is relaxed here. So if you do a preacher curl, that's going to help activate the bicep better. But even more so, this is how you stretch the bicep. So if I do it on incline, I'm going to be getting the bicep even better. We'll try that for now. Other than I'm slipping a little bit. Here we go. Oh yeah, this is going to be a lot harder. I'm going to have to use the tins.
As you might tell here, I am not the biggest fan of the camera. And you may or may not tell that I'm not the biggest fan of training my biceps. I am not going for the gun show on a woman look, but I do also think that having a toned and tight upper body is beneficial for my health and longevity. I also want to have balance in my body, and even though I do not want to have a huge muscular physique from my top half, I also don't think it's as easy as a lot of women believe to put on a ton of muscle on our upper body. It's okay to have some muscle or to be toned, but it takes a lot of effort to be huge and jacked. There are people that spend years upon years trying to build muscle in their chest, in their shoulders, in their back, and they simply cannot get there. So a lot of women jump to the conclusion that if they start to do bicep curls, they're immediately going to look like a man. I am here to tell you that that is not going to happen. If you are a person, man or woman, that wants to be huge and jacked in your upper body, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of nutrition, and proper training to get that physique. So if you are afraid to train upper body, you really shouldn't be. You can start training upper body, and if you get too much growth, you can scale back. But for most, men and women that want to build a stronger body, it's going to take a lot more effort than what you might think. Whether you are training your lower body, upper body, or even your core, the amount of effort it takes to get the result you want is a lot. That's why I keep saying have goals that are important and valuable to you and make the journey fun. Otherwise, it does take time. So don't be afraid to lift heavy. Don't be afraid to train upper body. It's going to be a long process, whether your goals are physical or aesthetic. Either way, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to put in the effort. Making the program fun and enjoyable is going to really help the process. Strongman Mitch Hooper has been in the hot seat lately, but he knows a lot about kinesiology and achieving physical goals. He says that your mind is often going to give out before your body does. We are capable of so much more than we think. It is hard to start a fitness journey or to even advance your functional conditioning, but it's also hard to sit in the muck and the mire and to just settle where you are.
Feels like summer. Is that what Olaf says? In summer. Because I'm still learning this as well. The straighter the leg, they call that a straight leg deadlift. Sometimes I call it a strict leg deadlift because I feel like I have to be more careful about my form. So I actually like to call them strict instead of straight. As soon as you don't have the range though, keeping your legs strictly straight or having great form, then you need to just drop, because otherwise the movement starts to come from your back, and that's just dumb, because one of the things about deadlifts is it's a heavy lift most of the time. So if you're loading heavily and forcing the movement to come from your back, you're just basically asking to get hurt. And when I come up, I don't need to like, oh, this is not the Pee Wee Herman. You know.
For every excuse you have to not train, I promise you there are more excuses to get going. I'm confident there are countless valid reasons for why you're not making progress to your goals. Yes, valid reasons. We all have them, but there are far more reasons every time working against our useless excuses. People have injuries that make a program like this unattainable. There are people that might never be able to walk again, or that have a ridiculously hectic schedule. The point I'm making here is that your program needs to suit you and your goals. For some, that will include rest, more food, or more time with loved ones. Not everyone should have a goal of six-pack abs. Some people need to work on being more responsible, cleaning up after themselves, following through with their promises. Fitness is about health, showing up, making more of yourself, and about being something bigger and better than who you are alone. But you matter, and you are all you can control. You deserve to be the best version of yourself, and this is just 1 week to inspire you to show up, believe, and better yourself. I am proud of you, and you should be too.
Okay, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am so lucky. Look at my amazing cameraman.
You did so good.
I'm not always gonna have a cameraman, so this was really, really fun. Even though he does not care about my safety, obviously, because we're dying, we have a seatbelt on.
No pedicure, no nails, no safety.
Okay, so we are wrapping up our full week of workouts. That was a 5-day training split. I do not always train like that. I would say I used to train like that a lot when I was playing sports. It was a lot more programmed and structured, and I will say I actually think that's better. I think having a program and having structure is a better way to go. You're much more likely to progress. You're much more likely to progressively overload. You're much more likely to have discipline and see progress. The only complaint I have with the program, sorry, hold on. My arms are fatigued, so I'm having to get creative and switch my hands, basically. But my only problem with a program, especially if you're buying your program from anything software-based. So if you are buying your program from a software-based program, for example, V-Shred.
So Will Tennyson did an amazing video on V-Shred about how he kind of rips people off, and he bought the program, and he's like, oh, this is personalized. But Will showed there were very generalized things that obviously it was not a personalized program. It's like a cookie cutter program. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the cookie cutter program, and if you're brand new, you are going to see progress, but you have to learn how to listen to your body. And if you're only exclusively doing a program, you actually are much more likely to get hurt. You might not maximize your gains, because if something isn't feeling good, if something's tight, if something's overly fatigued and you force it, you really might not be giving the muscle adequate time to rest and get the most out of the movement than making a few subtle adjustments. If you're in a commercial gym, you might have to make adjustments just because the gym is packed and you don't want to be there until 7 days from now. So there can be different reasons why adjusting a program can be hugely beneficial. I actually do like to go in with a program, and I think I should start doing that again. I stopped because so often you go in and you have to modify because the gym doesn't allow you to do what you want to do exactly. But if you want to write yourself up a program or follow one, having substitutions, having different options, what equipment do they have, what equipment do they not have. I do not have a pendulum squat at my gym. I wish I did. I do not. I don't have a hip abduction machine at home. So if you're following a program verbatim, I don't want you to get discouraged if you fail because you don't do everything on the list, and then you're like, okay, well, I didn't do that, so why even bother? Knowing your body and learning how to be flexible, I do like to take an intuitive approach to my lifting, but I do think it's even better if I want to start seeing progress, because I don't want to be in maintenance. I don't want to just maintain. I actually do want to build muscle. I want to build strength. I want to build power. I want to improve my health. Anytime there's a goal that's change, you should have some sort of a plan and a program. If you only are trying to maintain, then not having a plan or a program is fine. If you're perfectly happy with your body, if you're perfectly happy with your diet, if you love the way you're eating, if you love the way you're sleeping, if you love the way you're built, you don't need a plan. If that's maintenance, if you're maintaining what you're doing, you do not need a plan. If you're changing what you're doing, you need a plan, and you also should have some flexibility and intuition with that plan, whether it's nutrition or sleep or something like that. If you have a plan to be in bed from 9 to 5, and your best friend is in town for their wedding, if you're going to follow your plan verbatim, you suck as a friend and as a person. I'm just telling you that right now. So you need to have some flexibility with your plans. Same thing with nutrition, same thing with your fitness, because you literally will have to live at the gym if you're going to be super strict to the point of, okay, well, I have to do standing calf raises first. And like the dude that sits at the gym all day long is there, and he's like basically playing brake check on you. Like he's going to sit there until you're on his ass, and then he's going to get even like where he sits there even longer. So have some flexibility in your program. That way you can really enjoy it and stick with it, because consistency, which I can't even say, is key. And I would say the most important thing of all, even over consistency, is intention. But those two go hand in hand. You have to have intention and you have to have consistency. Otherwise, it's all not worth anything, again, unless you're just trying to maintain. That's a maintenance thing, and you don't need to have a plan.